Hey everybody, back live for the first time since, well, my trip to Miami. 54 days from today. That's right. The Oakland Raiders, and I'm going to call them that whether you like it or not, until the Coliseum JPA says, hey, they are that, the Los Angeles Raiders. But until then, the Oakland Raiders have 54 days 54 days to notify the Oakland-Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority, officially, according to their own lease agreement, that they are going to not go ahead with a lease extension, and indeed play at Allegiant Stadium for the 2020 NFL season. The Raiders have not done that. I don't care what kind of clip you present about something that Mark Davis said. I don't care what Don Webb said. I don't care what some Las Vegas media organization that is essentially being paid by the Raiders, true, to spin the news the Raider way has come up with of late. I don't care what reporter, who's also paid by the Raiders, but posts at the Las Vegas media organization for which I speak, puts out. The simple fact of the matter is that the Raiders have a current and active lease with the Oakland-Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority that includes a lease extension that the Raiders signed last year after an organizationally embarrassing place where the Raiders tried to play at Oracle Park. And the Giants and the city of San Francisco, to a board member of the Board of Supervisors, said, you can't play here. Now, as far as update, sure. The roof cable net structures are finally being tightened in place, but even then they're not done. And even when that occurs, because it's tightened in place, don't make the mistake of thinking that the roof is completed because of that. There is a long way to go with this. What is to start in April is the actual placement of the tiles that comprise the roof that's supposed to go over the cable net structure. Remember, the cable net structure is a series of webbings to hold these panels in place. It's not the roof in of itself. It doesn't keep snow out. It doesn't shield the audience from rain. That's not the idea. It's supposed to hold the panels that ultimately do that. Okay? So, as I say to everybody, believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. Don't believe in people, especially when something as esoteric like this is being built. And not only that, has been, delayed, because it was supposed to be finished last August 8th, and then delayed because it was supposed to have been finished in September, and then delayed again in November, and then delayed again in December, and then delayed again. You get the idea. This thing's been delayed a lot. And to think that one can sort of just build around it is basically the kind of approach that got us into this entire situation to begin with, because they're trying to fast track it. Brother, let me read your comments. John Akala, how you doing? Oh, by the way, Zenny62 Media is officially incorporated. John Akala says, I think if the Raiders thought the stadium would open on time, they would have notified the JPA by now. Absolutely. Jason D says, amen, believe in Jesus. Thank you. We need more of that. Cesar Canete, beautiful name. Oh my gosh, for real? After all this hype about Las Vegas, they're going to end up playing in Oakland for one more season? You're right. This really is embarrassing for the Raiders. I didn't say that was going to happen this time. It happened last year. But it could happen again this time. And you know what? So what? the bottom line should be, the concern should be, are we building a facility that's safe? Will this facility stand the test of time? God forbid anything happens during, say, a major league concert, a major concert event, right? You don't want that to happen. And I also remind everybody, name one major concert event that's going to occur at Las Vegas Stadium this year that's cemented in place. You know the performer that's going to be there. I don't mean rumors. I don't mean guesses. I mean something where you can go and get the tickets right now. Name one. Let's check that out. In fact, let's go to StubHub, since this is a visual, right? Let's go to StubHub and have some fun. StubHub, okay, and see. So I'm at StubHub. Eric Weddle, by the way, retired. StubHub. There's StubHub. Buy and sell tickets. I'm pressing on StubHub right now. And once I get the site up, I will show you. And I am going to type what I hope is there, which should be, Allegiant Stadium, right? Allegiant Stadium. And as I call it, the Black Beauty. My nickname for Allegiant Stadium is the Black Beauty because it is a beautiful structure. No question about it. Absolutely beautiful, gorgeous structure. See all the results from Allegiant Stadium. Okay. Let me show you this, folks. All right. Are you ready? Boom. I typed Allegiant Stadium in StubHub, and what did I get? Thank you. No events. There aren't any events on the horizon right now. Okay. Allegiant Stadium. All right. Okay. Again, no events. There aren't any events on the horizon right now. What does this say? Thank you for the investment, Chi. Allegiant Stadium. Once again, no events. There aren't any events on the horizon right now. You read that? You read that? You read that? There aren't any events on the horizon right now. Oh, and by the way, the NFL draft has nothing to do with Allegiant Stadium. That's the Strip. It's going to be at the Bellagio. It's going to be at the Las Vegas Convention Center. It's going to be in different places. Don't confuse the two. But as far as Allegiant Stadium is concerned, StubHub is telling you, no one's trying to sell tickets because there aren't any tickets to sell. All right? So for those of you saying, well, it's definitely going to happen and all this is going to happen, what? It's not on StubHub, okay? It's not there. And I remind all of you, this is the internet. You can check out something, all right? You could check out. Cesar asks this, I think, very good question, a number of Allegiant, and she says, 49ers lost their chance to take over #Raider Nation. They did. They really did. The 49ers had it in their palms, and hey, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and a terrific game plan snatched victory from the jaws of defeat, from the Chiefs' perspective. Now, Cesar asks, if the XFL does indeed work out this time, do you see the league bringing a team back to Oakland, maybe possibly rebooting the USFL's Oakland Invaders? The problem with the XFL being in Oakland can be summed up in one name, the Oakland Athletics. The Oakland Athletics have stood in the way of signing the XFL at the Coliseum. So as long as the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda allow the Oakland Athletics to have a stranglehold over use of the stadium with respect to the XFL for the spring, you're not going to see it there. Okay? That's the problem. I actually broke that story on Oakland News Now last year, early on, and into 2018. So, look, as much as you and I would love to see the XFL in Oakland, the bottom line is it's not going to happen. It's not even going to be at the University of California at Berkeley for reasons having to do with noise and old ordinances and, crotchety neighbors who don't want to hear certain things that have nothing to do with Cal football, but are pro football. All right. So, unfortunately, the XFL is going to have a hard time finding a home in the Bay Area right now. Now, unfortunately, the on the horizon, what I see is I see the Oakland Athletics going after the XFL to be played in its new ballpark at Howard Terminal. That's what I see. Because the Oakland A's, they remind me of they're greedy. Huh, they want it all. They want to take it all, right? Because they understand those events are going to power the revenue needs for their ballpark. And so, look, they're going to have every configuration possible that can be used for different types of sports at the ballpark, including football. So don't think the A's are going to let the XFL go, out and away for too long, because they're going to have their brand new facility at Howard Terminal, and they're going to say, come and play with us. That's the plan for them. So Derek Douglas says, that really makes sense to me. Concerts are booked a year in advance. Yep. She says, I agree with his XL4 point. And then Raiders P says, cool videos in on your Super Bowl trip. Enjoyed that. Thank you. That was a great trip. And I love Miami. And I have to say, I was going to make a separate post about the Super Bowl halftime show, and I will do that. But I have to say this. The Super Bowl halftime show was an expression of Miami culture. If you've ever been to Miami and you've seen how it is on South Beach or just around town with legions of athletic women in bikinis and, oh my, excuse me for a second. Ugh. Okay, anyway, you know what Miami is about. It's about Latino culture. It is a mix between the hyper-urbanism of Tokyo and New York, the sexy Latino culture, the American business, and the tropical environment presented in that part of Florida, along with a dose of Los Angeles urban design. You throw all that together, to slam it all to home together, and you have the modern Miami. And the reason why I say the modern Miami is because when I went to visit Miami for the 2009 Super Bowl, around the Southeast Beach area, you had a new building, or a fairly new building, next to a rundown building. It was quite literally cheek by jowl, right? Not the modern Miami, no. Futuristic building after new building after new building after new building after renovated Art Deco building. Beautiful, just completely beautiful. And it's quite clear that the worldwide rush to invest in real estate that has been done by everybody from Russian oligarchs to Middle Eastern rich people to tech billionaires and millionaires in the United States has had a dramatic impact on Miami like I've never seen before. That place has been absolutely transformed. It is truly the city of the future. Okay, let me, one moment, please. Okay, let me continue with your comments here. And Derek Douglas says, no true Raider fan would abandon their nation so easily. Okay, who's abandoning their nation? Don't know what you're talking about. Basher Z says, wow, I thought the Raider fans had more sense than this. Absolute Pain says, what is going on with the March 6th lawsuit? Keep hearing that there is a settlement. Oakland will want to keep the Raider name. No, let me correct something. First of all, there is a gigantic misunderstanding with how these things work legally. And I keep just simply trying to be this presenter of common legal sense via civil procedure. You have to go through a trial, okay, to get to a point where, or at least discussions where it says, hey, you know what? Maybe you can't win a trial for these reasons. And then you talk settlement. We're not even there. We haven't even gotten through this to this point of a hearing March 6th to, to coldly determine if this thing is going to go forward. I think it's going to, all right? But the cold reality is court, and we have now 29 days. Court has not yet been activated. We don't have a court session yet. We have a schedule, 9:30 in the morning, March 6th, right? But it hasn't happened. But you have to go through that to get to the settlement. And then depending on what happens in the trial determines the settlement. And then maybe you'll get that settlement. But you just can't blaze in saying, I want the name and colors, because that's not that you can't do it, you can. But read the lawsuit. And I ask people again and again and again, read these documents. I don't know what's going on with society. I don't know what's going on with younger generations where you all don't read things, but I'm not trying to be mean. I'm being honest, all right? You have to read and ask questions. Don't pretend like you know or hide behind some fake name. You have to ask questions if you don't know something, okay? Use the internet for the information that's there. If you don't understand something, ask. Ask me, ask somebody else, ask. Because then we have this, sort of teach-in, this discussion, right? And we all learn, like we're having this exchange here, which gets me back to your questions and your comments and your statements. So that's for you, Absolute Pain 101. John Akala asks, if the Raiders play in the Coliseum this year, I understand they have to play the whole season. There's no split. That's right, there's no split. And the reason is this. The reason there's no split is this. Because they being the Oakland-Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority, and specifically AEG Oakland. Remember, there's an AEG Las Vegas, okay? And don't forget, the AEG's got a foot in both camps. So if AEG Las Vegas has not notified AEG Coliseum that all's a go on their end, then you know it's not a go. So the secret sauce here is the involvement of AEG and Schutz Entertainment Group. So again, getting back to the point here, AEG Oakland would have to quickly fill in dates that for some point in the fall, if there was a split. And while you might say, oh, that's easy, it's not really easy. Because if you don't have a total fall schedule of dates to fill for a particular type of sport, you're not going to get that sport or sport event, okay? Maybe you have a multi-concert series that if you didn't have the Raiders in, you could have had in September or October, right? But then let's say you get the Raiders, but then the Raiders are leaving in late October, so you're stuck. You can't seem, because by the time that's decided, the events for October, that space has already been taken up by other cities trying to track the same organizations. Problem. So Greater P says, what do you think Zen Bochy back in the Giants front office? I think that's a curveball question. I didn't know that until now. I think Bruce Bochy is, when I think of Bruce Bochy, you know what the first thing I think of is? I think of the parades. I think of the proud moments that his Giants have brought the city of San Francisco and the Bay Area. I think of that great event that was people in the Marina District in San Francisco flowing out of the bars to celebrate in the streets, and unfortunately for the people who own the cars, bouncing up and down the cars like because they're happy for a victory. You think I'm kidding? I am not kidding you. In fact, I have, why do I say that? Why I say that? Because I was one of them. Not on the car. No. But I was one of them. And point being that it was, and I'm going to take a momentary aside to show you what it was like then. That was the Bay Area. That was SF Giants World Series Zinni 62 YouTube. There, okay. It was a glorious moment. SF Giants win 2014 World Series. Balboa Cafe. Let's see. Have a look here. Boom. The time machine, don't you think? A little trivia. The Balboa Cafe was once owned by now California Governor Gavin Newsom, and the Plump Jack organization, which owns it right now, which he is part owner. It is on Fillmore in Greenwich. If you ever visit San Francisco, tell them Zenny Abraham sent you. It's been a while since I've been there. I think hopefully Lance is still there. I got to check in with some of the folks. It's a great place, a great Cal bar for University of California alums. But at any rate, I digress.
Look at that. Wow, look at that. It's still coming in. Look at that. What do you think?
There's another one. Hold on. That's one. Here's the other.
It's the Giants place. Hey guys! Woo!
All right, so you get the idea. I could go on. I don't want to go on too long, but you get the idea. Boy, it was a madhouse. That was 2010, by the way. The previous video was 2014. So when I think of Bruce Bochy, I think of scenes like that. And not only that, it's something that I think every civic elected official needs to see today, because a lot of people don't get it. I was talking with Larry Beal about how Oakland's electorate has changed and how Oakland politicians have changed. And we have a number of politicians who have an activist bent. And as much as that is, understandable given the problem, it tends to feed the existence of problems rather than find solutions to them. Okay. So specifically homelessness in Oakland and California. And so if I say to any elected official that we need to have a bigger convention space than 150,000 square feet, or we need to have triple the hotel rooms we have, which is about 3,000 to 4,000, we need 12,000 at least, they do nothing. And so hotel rooms, convention centers, those spaces form the base around which you can effectively host a Pro Bowl or an NFL draft or a Super Bowl on the NFL end, or any event that's put on by Major League Baseball or any of the major sports, even Major League Soccer. So, or let's take our gaze away from sports for a second and think about a convention like Oracle World, which left San Francisco. It would have been great if, Oakland had 500,000 square feet of convention space to say, oh, come on over here, right? But no. And folks, that problem has existed. The lack of convention space and hotel space has existed in Oakland for the last 40 years. And has become more acute each decade as our service economy increased and developed, our manufacturing economy decreased. And so the service end became more comprised of functions like tourism, right? So here we are in the San Francisco Bay Area, one of the hot tourist locales in the world, if not the United States. And Oakland is consistently left hoping to pick up the attention of people, maybe because they, crossed over the bridge. And that problem exists today. So you would say, what have the elected officials done about that? I'll give you the answer. Nothing. The idea of city building has gone out the window. Out the window in Oakland. It's not about city building. It's about looking at a problem that was sparked by a previous generation, specifically Governor Brown, when he was mayor. And then it was ignored by each and every mayor after Jerry, starting with Ron Dellums, then Gene Kwan, okay? And now we have Mayor Schaaf, all right? And no effort to solve that problem. And it's shameful. It's shameful, okay? So at any rate, every city, those elected officials should see people celebrating and understanding, even like the Warrior Parade, how great it was to have that go on in Oakland rather than San Francisco. And also, it would be great for them to be in another city, like a time machine, and then hear the number of times Oakland is mentioned on a television screen in Atlanta or New York or some other place. And then fast forward to today, where Oakland's mention has gone down by a ton. All that free advertising that Oakland enjoyed for so many decades is gone. And the elected officials chased it away, as much as the Raiders did in the case, or the Warriors. It takes two to tango in everything, okay? And like I said, as much as the Raiders did bamboozle us, and meaning the city of Oakland, and did not explain precisely what they were doing or give Oakland a real chance, the mayor did not let a lawsuit fly out of the city of Oakland office into the Raider headquarters the very minute in 2015 she got wind of the whole Carson deal. If I had been mayor, that lawsuit would have flown out of my office and it would hit the Raiders' doorstep so fast, you'd have heard it around the world. I would not have let the Raiders go. I would have put down an injunction. I said, look, you're not going to move. I don't care what we have to do to tie you up. I don't care what we have to find that's wrong. I don't care if I have to get the chief of police, the county, Charlie Plummer, who's the head of the Alameda County Sheriffs. I don't care if I have to get law enforcement to bar the abilities of the Raiders to move. I don't care what I have to do. I don't care if I have to call the National Guard. That's what I would take it. If I would go to the governor and say, you know what, can you just grant me power, just the National Guard, just to send them down to the Raider office, just to, scare them, make them stay. Seriously, I'd do that. Because then they would get it. It's like, hey, look, you know what? You work with us first. You don't go anyplace else. Okay? We don't have elected officials today that are butthole enough to do that. Just saying. I'm just saying. Okay? Because that's the thing you've got to do when it's about your city and your city's image and its economic development and employment. I would have sued Las Vegas for economic tampering. I would have sued San Francisco for economic tampering. Leave my city alone. You can do that. Cities have done that. Leave my city alone. Let me straighten out my problems. You say maybe they want to do something? I don't care. Stay out of my problems. They're unhappy? Make them talk to us. They want something? Send them to us. They think they can get something better someplace else. You tell them to come back here. Stay out of our business. Leave my city alone. Just saying, okay? Just saying. You gotta want to fight. That's what it's all about, Raider P. It's about fighting. We want to fight. That's why you have, I remember something, I wish I could find this. Years ago, decades ago, someone had said, well, this next generation, they're not gonna, it was a demographic prediction that starting the millennial generation, as it's called now, does not fight. Okay? And I'm going to take a momentary aside. I'm going to come back home. But I want you all to think about what I'm about to tell you. It is wrong. This is from a blogger, okay? It is wrong to have all of you posting on just Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Why? Because you're being brainwashed to accept an idea of an authoritarian government. In those instances, the authoritarian government is ran by Mark Zuckerberg for Facebook and Jack Dorsey for Twitter, which just had its earnings call on Thursday, all right? And you quote their terms of service, you allow them to act in ways that are hypocritical, and that's okay. Whereas prior to the emergence of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and before that Friendster and all the other networks that didn't quite catch on, we had blogs. We still have blogs by the millions, many millions. But the idea was that you would post what you post on Facebook on a blog. I would read your blog, you read mine. We each had our own, if you will, private Idaho, all right? Our own nation, our own way of speaking. Our own free speech area, okay? But now, a lot of you demand that Facebook be your free speech area. That's owned by somebody else. You see what I'm getting at? So you are mentally bending to the rules that person puts on you, that dictatorship, and it makes you more likely to accept an American dictatorship. Do not fall into that trap. You want how you get out of it? Go to blogger.com, start your own blog, But don't stop there. Go to Squarespace and start another platform. Be multi-platform. But do not be a slave to a single platform. Because if you're a slave to a single platform, you will mentally find yourself a slave to an authoritarian government. Because you're already getting practiced. Food for thought. Continuing. All right, now. Griffin says Cal's going 11-2 next year. Hope so. Which reminds me of something. Derek Douglas says, isn't, quote, city building the whole root of the problem surrounding Oakland sports teams? This is economic 101. You mean the lack of city building? Yeah, I think that's the best comment tonight. It is. It really is. It really is. We used to do city building, and that whole thing just went out the window. We don't do it anymore. It's really sad. Beyond sad. It's, beyond sad. Raider P says, that's a fact. City officials should have done that then and fight the NFL. Fight, fight, fight. Derek Douglas says, wouldn't building them an adequate stadium be much easier, and the city doesn't own the Raiders? I don't understand that argument. Well, I don't understand your point there, because I'm reading a text rather than hearing you say it, and therefore allowing you you have the chance to adjust, right? So I'm going to go with what I think you might mean. City building is about having, first of all, let me get one thing straight here. The Raiders did not work exclusively with Oakland. The Raiders worked behind the back of the mayor of Oakland. Okay? All right? I told Libby that in 2015. We proved it, and right then is when the lawsuit should have come out. I told him that. I said, you know what? You need to sue him now. In fact, I even wrote a column. I even wrote a post about that. So, you know what? It's time to sue the Raiders. Right now. Didn't happen. They waited. That was even before Forever Oakland came out with their lawsuit. I said, you know what? Let's do this. My point is that city building is as much an effort to make sure that, and let me explain to you how Oakland has changed. And this had to do with Jerry Brown. We used to have mayors, Lana Wilson, Elihu Harris, who I worked for, Mayor Redding before that, during the 80s, early 80s, before in early 70s, excuse me, we had mayors that understood the need to have different amenities, concert halls, sports stadiums, arenas. You get the idea. Downtowns that had restaurants in them, retail shopping experiences to socialize. I understand retail's not what it used to be. City building, all right? Now we don't have an organization that thinks that way. They think in terms of, well, we have a housing problem. You just build housing, but they say market rate housing, which is silly, completely ridiculous. And so, and they want to stick on market rate housing because they have all these real estate developers and investors whispering in their ears saying, hey, you know what? We're making a lot of money here. Don't take away the goose that laid the golden egg, which is basically these forces, this demand that has driven up rents and then caused the demand for more market rate housing, okay? And because we have these jobs that have produced this money, a lot of tech money that demands these kinds of housing, can afford it, okay? They said, don't take that away. And they're buying their politics. I kid you not, they're buying their politics. But a city building mayor needs to push that away and get back to building a mixed economy. What is that? Sure, you have market rate, but you have affordable housing too. And you have more than you need. But you don't just stop there. You have basic industry jobs to employ those persons who are not getting the jobs that allow them to work and play and stay in Oakland without becoming homeless. Basic industry jobs that are well-paying but are low-skilled, right? What's happened is that in all of our modern tech history in Oakland, I would say from the time of the growth of the service industry economy till now, Oakland has not forced the creation of an adequate number of basic industry businesses and jobs. It has chased it away. Why? Oh, that's a dirty industry. That's dirty. And now it's like, well, that's a anti-climate change things. Well, wait a minute. Why not subsidize those businesses using tax increment financing to allow them to bring in the modern technologies to operate cleaner and yet employ people and yet pay them well? That's something actually we used to do in the city of Oakland. We had, get this, 120 job training programs in Oakland in 1997. Think about that. We probably had more job training programs, all financed to some degree by the city of Oakland's redevelopment agency, per capita, than I would venture any other city in California, if not the United States. And that went away with redevelopment, with tax increment, with the ability to use tax increment financing on a wide scale. It's coming back. When the city finally tells you what I already know about Senate Bill 293, the Howard Terminal Infrastructure Development Zone, which will bring a $1.4 billion subsidy base to bear on Howard Terminal project. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who say, oh, that's not for the ballpark, read the damn bill. Even the definitions, just saying. Now back to your comments. And she says, let me get back to, I lost some of your comments here. Let me go back to where I was. Patrick and Blackman is here. And Muhammad is here. Muhammad says, surprised no developers haven't built any conventions in Oakland yet. Maybe things will change. You have to, in order for that to happen, Muhammad, you have to have public money pushing the private money to provide an incentive. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. Look at all the convention cities, that's the case. Public money has to be involved to a degree in order for that to happen. Raider P says, funny how the Raiders' schedule this year is less harder than last year. Well, we don't actually know the schedule itself. We know who the Raiders are going to play. We already know that. We don't know, first of all, what the dates are going to be or where. Are they coming back to Oakland? Or, we don't know yet. We don't officially know. So hold on a second with that one. Muhammad says, excited to see Jalen get his extension, well-deserved. Talking about Jalen Richard, I agree. Griffin says, Cal is going 11-2. I saw that before. Derek Douglas says, I got the city building thing. And Cheese says, this social engineering is real. I wish the non-gentrified population of Oakland and Berkeley, let's not forget Emeryville and San Leandro, would fight our city leaders and demand a real convention center. Yeah, because that convention center, 500,000 square feet and up, would employ the vast majority of people who are having a hard time getting basic jobs in Oakland. Okay? Not everybody is in tech. That's just the way, that's just a fact. Nor do they want to be. And you want to have that foot traffic to be able to have restaurants and eateries and artisan shops and everything. And not only that, we're squeezing out our artist base. What does that mean? It means that the talent that you have to make something or paint something, the ability to set up shop somewhere and have those wares sold is dwindling because of these high rental costs that the city has done nothing about on a commercial level to curb. And we need commercial rent control in California. Now, so Raider P says, fans like us need to stand up to the NFL owners and the NFL. We won't support your teams if they leave the city. Yep. Cheese says, but there are people ready to fight against the prejudice here in the Bay. If we can win, we have more things in Oakland. The field of schemes thinking is why SF and Oakland don't have football. Very true. That is very true. Raider P says, SF has the 49ers in the Raiders case. We are out of Cali. And Raider P says, prejudice is everywhere. Yeah, but you know what? The best way to fight prejudice is to remind everybody of this. Prejudice, racism is a mental illness, okay? And it's officially racism is a mental illness, and it was declared as such by the Oxford Dictionary in 2002. And it's called the the Oxford Handbook of Personality Disorders, okay? And it declared it, this is in 2012. So just say, you know what, it says that it includes a chapter. It says racism and pathological bias as a co-occurring problem in diagnosis and assessment. The Oxford Handbook of Personality Disorders is a leading handbook that provides information concerning the diagnosis, assessment, construct, validity, etiology, pathology, and treatment of personality disorders. Noelle Rooks, Associate Director of the Center for African American Studies at Princeton, wrote an op-ed for Time. And she thought that classifying racism as an illness was troubling. I don't. It's because it is, all right? It is. But in what you have to do, when their thinking is, okay, thinking of any form of racism as an illness is very troubling. Historically, psychiatrists, psychologists, the medical establishment, lay people have all agreed that the roots of racism are cultural or societal. A set of beliefs and behaviors that are learned and as a result can be unlearned. If it would ever be declared an illness that can be treated, racists will no longer be legally or ethically responsible for their actions. I disagree. Because if you are racist and racism is a mental illness and you haven't gotten help for it, then you know what? That's a crime. Because you're allowing yourself to not have a fix. The simple fact, to fix yourself. Look, extreme depression is a mental illness. You can get medication for it. So why, if that's the case, you can't say that, hey, mental illness, which is acknowledged here, racism is acknowledged here as a mental illness, is a bad thing that you need to take your medicine for. Take your medicine. But my point is, getting back to the comment, if you instruct people that racism is a mental illness and they need to get their meds, it'll change their thinking. And they'll get their meds and stop. You cannot, look, you can't have people isolated from each other and not allow what I call this mental stuff to fester, because that the person that has the racism is latching on to some kind of way of making themselves feel better than other people as a way of masking the other negative stuff going on in their lives. What happens if they're happy? Okay, like, take a happy pill, right? So if there is such a thing as a happy pill, and we agree euphemistically that there is, then we have to, in the next, take the next cognitive leap. If racism is a mental illness and it's proven that it is, then guess what? You need to take a happy pill. Seriously. So, so it's like, so my point is, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. Now, remember, you say prejudice is everywhere. I say, hey, you know what? Give them happy pills. Remind them of their mental illness. And I will say this also very bluntly. You know what? If a person who is looking to pump themselves up by racism is reminded that what they're doing is actually a mental illness, you know what they'll do? They'll stop using that as a way to make themselves feel better about themselves, because the only way they can do that is by putting somebody else down, and that's wrong. So you got to get them out of it. Make them take their happy pill, specifically their aspirin. Now, Derek Douglas says, so you're saying the city should have built a convention center and an adequate stadium? I am saying that the city, in the case of the Raiders, let me be clear. The Raiders have sort of been, the Raiders have been looking for somebody to build something for them in Oakland. The Raiders have not led the city. That's quite different than a number of NFL teams. The Cowboys led everybody else, and Jerry Jones says, this is what we want to have done. But the Raiders didn't do that. And the danger of that was, hey, you know what? The Raiders could sit back, watch the city make this misstep or that misstep, not call in the NFL, but then decide they're going to move. The way Oakland should have stopped that was via injunction, saying, look, we need you at the table to work with us. We don't need you talking about moving to LA, as Mark Davis did on the 9th of October of 2011. The moment he gained control of the Raiders, started making noises about moving the team to LA. No. A mayor with that had the appropriate cojones would have said, you know what? Boom, here's the injunction. You stay here. You know what? Boom. There's the National Guard. You stay here. You know what? Boom. Here's the Alameda County Sheriffs. You stay here. You know what? Boom. Here's the Oakland Police. You stay here. You're not going anywhere under my regime. You're going to stay here, and you're going to work with us to build a stadium. We're going to know what you want. We're going to give you a state-of-the-art facility, and you're going to love it and own it. Okay? That's what you do. So what I'm saying, though, is the Raiders aside, we still need a new stadium. We'll get one with the A's, but my concern regarding this noise about tearing down the Coliseum is that the city of Oakland is going to let the Oakland A's have control of sports facilities in our municipality, and that is a dangerous thing. To have one organization be able to close out or let in any other sports activity. That's where your sports commission comes in. Oakland needs, by initiative, a true sports commission that can go after events, raise money, and then finance the construction of facilities. We need that. The only person in Oakland's history ever to create, start, and run a sports commission is the guy you're looking at. That's sad. So, John Acosta says, I wonder if NFL will make Raiders let them know before the April 1st deadline. Actually, it's March 31st at midnight, where they will play so they can work on schedule. John, that's a good question. I'll ask. I know what the NFL is going to say, which is ask the Raiders, but, that's a circuitous thing. But you never know. Joseph Amandur is one of our top bloggers. the personalities here at Zenny62 Media. It says, don't know if you covered this already, but what are the legal ramifications of any if the Raiders have to go back to Oakland? They're still the Oakland Raiders if they're officially announced. Well, that's not a legal issue per se. That is a marketing issue. Unless the Raiders have some agreement in Las Vegas that I don't know about, which says you've got to be out of Oakland by X and here by Y. Absent, but see, that's the Raiders' problem with respect to Las Vegas, but not Oakland. But unless they have some sort of side negotiation, I can't see the Raiders playing in Oakland and being the Las Vegas Raiders. I can see them being the Oakland Raiders in Oakland and then the Las Vegas Raiders when they get to Las Vegas. There's no reason. In fact, if you think about it this way, there's no reason to change signage, heap an extra cost just to put up Las Vegas Raiders rather than Oakland Raiders if the Raiders are playing in Oakland. I mean, they're called Las Vegas Raiders, but look, where did the announcement happen? Did it happen in Oakland? No, it happened in Las Vegas. So fine, you're in Las Vegas, you're calling yourself the Las Vegas Raiders. Great. Technically, that's got nothing to do with Oakland. Just saying. At this point. So Raider P says, I think the commission of the NFL will let the NFL know where they're playing. I do believe this is an NFL rule. Actually, the league does have to sign off on the stadium use, but the NFL has to work with the Oakland-Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority through the Raiders. The Raiders have an active lease unless they are going to cause themselves yet another lawsuit by not acting according to contract. The Raiders should notify by letter Coliseum Authority and the executive director, that's Henry Gardner, before April 1st when the clock strikes midnight. Or I should say March 31st. And then when the clock strikes midnight, it's April 1st. When the clock strikes midnight, bing, that's it. Time's up, okay? So, time's up. So, folks, it's 2:06. I will be back to talk about this tomorrow more. And thank you for coming. It's great to have everybody back. And then we'll also talk about the Chiefs. And I'll talk more about my great trip to Miami and present some videos. And also upload some videos that you probably didn't see because I haven't uploaded them yet. Derek Douglas says, I believe the NFL schedule comes out in April. So they're going to have to decide for league schedule makers. Exactly. Yeah, they're going to have to decide. Yeah. Raider P says the Raiders, they will do it last minute, I think. Yeah, I think so too. Good night, John Akala. Good night, everybody. It's like the Waltons. By the way, those of you who have invested in Zenny62 Media, please email me here. Okay, this is my new email. .net. Okay, because I need to get your stock shares to you. They're micro investments, so the stocks are small, but as Frankenstein said to Dr. Frankenstein, I keep my promises. Good night, everybody. I'll see you.